We're talking about robots. How are we going to get that fully functional humanoid bot like we see in the movies?
Because of AI, robots have this ability to perceive.
Do you think robotics could have its own ChatGPT moment?
It will have and is already beginning to have this ChatGPT moment. Robots and robotic environments are beginning to pop up just about everywhere.
Is the robot revolution here? Hi, I'm Jill Wiltfong, Chief Marketing Officer for Korn Ferry, and this is Briefings, our deep dive into topics that corporate leaders need to care about. When ChatGPT came out of seemingly nowhere 2 years ago and took the world by storm, a lot of business leaders were stunned at the pace of its adoption. Now comes another enormous technological advancement. We're talking about robots. Yes, robots, and few businesses want to be caught flat-footed again. But how close really are we to a so-called ChatGPT moment when robots too will dominate the business world and career options? Well, we wish we had a clear answer, but for starters, robotic startups already raised $12 billion in venture capital last year alone. And have you seen the videos of some of the ones that can walk, jump, or take over an assembly line in factories? It's all part science fiction, part reality. Either way, we're ready to at least have the conversation before it's too late, as we ask, is the robot revolution here? Before we start, if you're watching us on YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment to let us know your thoughts on this topic. I am joined now by Ed Colgate, a professor of mechanical engineering at Northwestern University. He's the director of the Engineering Research Center for HAND, short for Human Augmentation via Dexterity. And he's also the inventor of a broad class of collaborative robots known as cobots. Ed, it's really great to have you on today.
It's great to be here, Jill. Good to be talking to you.
So, Ed, there's still a bit of work to be done in improving robot functionality and bringing down costs. But despite that, you have said that we're in this golden age of robotics. Tell me what makes you say that.
The thing that's different today is it really is AI. It's because of AI, now robots have this ability to perceive, to look out into the world and see and understand and act on what they see. And this just wasn't the case for, the past several decades.
Incredible. Yeah, it's amazing. The pace of technology is pretty unbelievable. Of course, certain kinds of robots are well ahead of others in terms of their adoption by companies. Can you give us a breakdown of the different classes of robots that are out there and where they stand in terms of progress?
The sort of type that's been with us the longest is the so-called industrial robot. These are these big arms that you see, welding up car bodies, painting the cars. Another more recent class that's good at making complex movements through space are automated mobile robots. So you'll find them in warehouses, moving around parts, delivering things from one place to another. But another class of robots that's become quite important is the cobot, the collaborative robot. In the past, a little more than 20 years, this has become an important class because what these are is they're robot arms, not unlike the traditional industrial robots, but scaled down and with a lot of safety features that make it possible for them to work side by side with people. So then we see other fun things like quadruped robots, running around, and of course, humanoids, right?
Hello, I'm David.
What can you do, David?
I can do almost anything that could possibly be asked of me. I can assist your employees. I can make your organization more efficient. I can carry out directives that my human counterparts might find distressing or unethical. I can blend in with your workforce effortlessly.
That's a scene from the movie Prometheus where the robot David promotes his ability to perform human-like tasks. And the idea of a humanoid robot certainly excites many who would love a little extra help at the office or a little help around the house. From a technological perspective, what's the biggest roadblock that's holding engineers back right now? How are we going to get that fully functional humanoid bot like we see in the movies? What's going to take us there?
I'd say the number one challenge is the thing that I focus on. You see it here on my shirt, and it is the hand. Hands are really hard. Hands are really, really hard because think about an arm. You've got about 6 joints in an arm and plenty of space for the muscles that move it around and any sensors you need. A hand has more like 25 joints or more in a much smaller space. And so packing everything in there, a lot more sensors, a lot of touch sensitivity, packing it all in there, making it work. That's a really hard problem.
So the $1 trillion question that many business leaders probably have is, what is your best estimate for how long it might take us to get to the kinds of robots that have that dexterity and that can do all these high level things that we imagine?
My best estimate is that it's between 1 to 2 decades. That we got about another decade of just really basic, research and developing. We'll see lots of startups. We'll see lots of fresh ideas, new ideas. And we'll sort of sort through that froth. And about a decade from now, things will begin to settle out. And we'll begin to have, robots that we can really begin to work with.
So while we continue to wait for that perfect robot, you have advised that companies might benefit from enhancing kind of small pilot programs, stay sharp on the latest developments. And you even have an example of a car company that did that to really great effect that I think we can all learn from. Talk about that a little bit.
There was a case I'm aware of a car company that picked a very particular operation. It wasn't something that required tremendous dexterity that really pressed the limits of what the robot could do, but still something that had to be done reliably. It had to happen around the clock for, months. You had to understand maintenance. You had to understand how do you get this integrated into your plant systems. And it's a chance to really begin to understand the ROI. I would strongly encourage those who have the capacity to consider doing pilots like this. I think this is the time. If you want to be a leader, you don't want to be caught flat-footed, this is the time to begin to get those learnings.
Incredible. Ed, it's been really fun getting your advice and expert kind of take on all of this. It's a super exciting space. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thank you.
We've looked at the future of robots from a technical perspective. When we return, we'll talk to a technology leadership expert to learn what this means for company leaders and what they should be doing to prepare. Stay with us.
Hi, and welcome to This Week in Leadership. I'm Rupak Bhattacharya, and here's a quick look at what else is happening in business.
Figuring out which tool works best for what task.
Some firms that picked one primary AI tool early on now worry it could handcuff their organization and potentially give rival firms a huge edge. Experts suggest that organizations may need to task a full-time team with vetting the various new AI tools to test prototypes and see whether they improve significantly on what an organization already has adopted.
Gen Zers have brought their mom or dad to an interview.
Facing a tough job market, 1 in 5 Gen Zers say their parents actually attend their job interviews, either in person or online. HR pros say seeking advice from one's parents is certainly reasonable. However, having parents come to an interview with them risks having the applicant be judged poorly for seeming unable to manage their affairs independently.
Using dating apps to get jobs.
And in another job-related story, 1 in 6 workers are employing dating apps to build professional connections. Experts say these numbers are only likely to grow as people look to boost their careers. But they urge honesty when using the apps for business purposes, saying doing otherwise could risk coming off as purposely misleading. For more insights from This Week in Leadership, head to kornferry.com/insights. Now back to Jill and our episode. Is the robot revolution here?
I believe I can reverse the polarity by attenuating my axial servo. Open sesame! You could say I have a magnetic personality. Humor! I love it!
And we're back. In the first half of this episode, we talked about the latest developments in robotics. And we're now joined by Korn Ferry's head of AI strategy and transformation, Brian Ackerman, to help us understand how companies can make sure they don't get caught unaware on this technology like so many were when ChatGPT first launched. Brian, it's great to have you.
Great to be here as always.
So since you're such a Star Trek fan, we had to play a clip from the movie Star Trek Generations, where the android, Lieutenant Commander Data, helps his human colleague open a sealed door using his robotic abilities, right? You probably know it well.
I could probably recite the dialogue.
Today's robots aren't quite there yet, but with the way technology is moving right now, do you think robotics could have its own ChatGPT moments?
Well, obviously robotics aren't new in the environment, but like every other use of AI, generative AI, agentic AI is going to make these physical manifestations of AI much more flexible, much more adaptable to many more processes and environments. So I think it will have and is already beginning to have its ChatGPT moment in the fact that robots and robotic environments are beginning to pop up just about everywhere. And that's the same shift we saw with generative AI a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So when chat came on the scene only a couple of years ago, it felt like it took so many companies by surprise. What would be your best advice to leaders looking not to repeat that kind of deer in the headlights scenario when it comes to robotics? What can we do differently?
I think it's a recognition that for the moment, generative AI and agentic AI has been focused on largely knowledge worker, white collar, non-industrial use cases, but that's changing very, very rapidly. So I think from a leadership perspective, it's important for leaders to just be aware that that same process transformation, that same opportunity for both efficiency and restructuring the way work happens is moving out of off your phone, off your keyboard, and onto the shop floor, onto your kitchen, and into the physical processes that are exist in the world.
As a species, humans have mastered energy to the level where it is, for all practical purposes, completely abundant. Now, what if I told you that the same is about to happen with labor?
That's a clip from a TED Talk delivered by a humanoid robot called Neo, who predicts a revolution in the way human labor is performed. And that's intriguing, but also perhaps unsettling news for some in the workforce. Over the last few years, there has been a lot of fear-mongering around AI-driven job displacement. But a Korn Ferry study found 82% of leaders say they believe AI will replace less than 20% of the workforce in the next few years. So, Brian, do you think humanoid robots are going to change these figures? Or will we see more of a world where robots aid humans, as we've been talking about, maybe rather than replace them?
We're a little ways away from the robots being able to operate themselves. And they struggle with precision tasks, videos of it taking 2 minutes for one of these robots to fold a shirt coming out of the dryer. And while, like every other advancement in AI, you got to be very respectful of how fast this is moving. I think we can also say, at least for the moment, there is a big distance between what these humanoid robots can really do by themselves, what they can do with someone controlling them like an Xbox gamer, and the level of precision and the type of activities they can do in daily life. And yet it has to be able to do daily life in order to make the kind of impact that we've seen with generative AI on your phone or on your browser.
Leave us with the gut check on the long view here. In the long term, what excites you most about robots in the workplace and what worries you?
As a superpowered assistant, I love that idea. I think it's got the same promise as everywhere else, and physical AI is going to bring that very much into, the everyday world we live in, maybe even to a greater extent than what we deal with now with generative AI. I'm a Star Trek fan. I love the clips in this episode, but I will always worry about, especially in humanoid robot production, are we trying to make some copy of a human that we shouldn't make? Are we trying to bridge the humanoid metaphor too far? and losing, what makes us special.
Thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us today on what is certainly rapidly evolving, and we'll see where it goes. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
The executive producer of Briefings is Jonathan Dahl. Today's episode was produced by Rupak Bhattacharya and Zachary Dorr, and it was edited by Jaron Henry McRae. It contains reporting by Russell Perlman, Ariane Cohen, and Peter Loria. Our video segment contains original artwork by Fraser Milton, Haley Kennel, Jonathan Pink, and Sasha Kotschik. And our web operations are managed by Ed McLaurin. Don't forget to read our magazine, available at newsstands and at kornferry.com/briefings. That's it for Korn Ferry Briefings. I'm Jill Wiltfong. See you next time. So, do you prefer New Haven pizza or Chicago pizza?
Depends on where I am.